Hey everybody, so today I want to talk a little bit about the distrust that a lot of people have for the media, and I want to talk about the experience that I have with it, with this problem within my own small industry, my own small niche. So just in the beginning of this video, I don't want to go over issues with immigration, police enforcement, economics, religion, politics, uh, economics, any of that stuff. I'm just going to stick very tunnel visioned to my own industry, and then we're going to expand out from there. So last year, Apple we got quite a bit of news for suing an independent repair shop for importing iPhone screens that had the Apple logo on them. They were things they were counterfeit. The claimant, Henrik Husby, was saying these were refurbished originals. And many people, myself included, not having all the information, went off and said, yeah, it's going to have the logo on it because that's the original LCD that had the logo from the factory. When you put a new glass on it, obviously it is going to have a logo on it. That's not counterfeiting, that's refurbishing. Now, new information came out, and that new information that I received when I testified in that case said that it wasn't just that the logo was on the LCD screen; it was on other parts of the screen that were refurbished. There was another logo stamped onto it afterwards. That logo was very obviously not put on by the Apple factory. It wasn't even trying to look the same as the original. It was a very, very bad copy, and that this changes the entire perception of the case. Now, when I figured out this information, again, I still think that Apple is kind of wrong for not making parts available. I still think they've done a lot of bad things for independent repair, and I still think Henrik's a good dude that was paying out the ass to buy the best parts for his customer. But when I got that news, the first thing I did was change the title of my original video and link to a follow-up. So I did a follow-up video and it only got 47,000 views. That wasn't good enough for me that it only got 47,000 views. So I did another follow-up video that got 119,000 views and another follow-up that got 53,000. It was really bothersome to me that there's a small chance that you may not have access to the truth simply because you followed the original video and didn't follow the follow-up videos. So one of the things that I did was I made a follow-up discussing how it was that there was a new information, a new fact that came to light that changes the context within which many people will view that case. So one of the things that I did was I reached out to several of the journalistic institutions that were covering that case, and I sent them all the documentation I had that had all these updated facts. And one of those was Vice. So one of the things I've said is I'm not a fan of Vice, but I do like Jason's coverage of many of these specific issues. He's traveled to cover right to repair issues. He's interviewed people involved in the industry. He really just tried to get a lot of information out of us. And I emailed him. He was very interested in the documentation, very interested in getting the stuff. I sent it to him. I said, what do you think? Silence. I contacted him a week later, silence. I contacted him almost a month later, silence. And as you can see, there has been no follow-up to that story from Vice. And this is part of the problem here. So new information came to light that makes this story something that you would view in a different light because you have new factual information. But that new factual information does not necessarily suit the narrative of the individuals that were behind the story. So we're not going to lie to you and tell you something's not true. We're just not going to present you those new facts. We're not going to shed a light on it. We're not going to let you know. We're going to make that executive decision that if you want that information, you can kind of dig for it yourself, but we're not going to help you get to it. And this is part of the problem when it comes to mainstream media. Even now, not even mainstream media, but the new wave of media, where people are making, it's not just editorial decisions on how to write an article, but they're making editorial decisions on what information you should be presented and what information you shouldn't be presented. They're not lying to you, they're just not covering something. And the problem here is that this is then going to create distrust amongst the individuals that follow you. But above all, once you actually start saying things that are true, that are factually correct, people are not going to believe you. And I am wondering, and there are so many people that wonder, how is it that these large journalistic institutions don't have trust? Why are people calling them fake news? Why are people not willing to accept facts that are objectively true, that can be fact-checked to be true when it's coming from a specific outlet? And one of those reasons is because you broke their trust. You broke their trust, and there is a consequence to that. So I was actually talking with Jessa about this the other day, and we had a seasoned debate about it, as we often do. So one of the things that she said is, I'm not sure I'd publish a story that says third-party repair shops have no idea what they're getting from China, and China habitually copies and lies. That is the story. Fuck repair. These guys have no idea how to do QC or evaluate a screen. They are monkeys plugging in random stuff from China. and that it doesn't matter how he says it. A story like that is something, if you want it, you could dig it up yourself. If Jason shines a light on it, the story becomes fuck repair, they're all idiots with shit parts. And she was arguing in defense of Jason not publishing this updated information on the story that he's been covering for several years. And I was arguing against not publishing that information. Now, I disagree with her. I think that, A, that's not what the narrative has to be. Many of the repair shops that are mentioned here have glowing 5-star reviews going back 10 years. Henrik was actually purchasing the highest tier quality of screen for his customer, and he was purchasing from a company that typically sells good stuff. I think the narrative there would be, it really sucks that we can't get original parts from the manufacturer because they make it that hard, so this is why we have to dumpster dive and try to find the best things that we can. Sometimes we may fail, and by the way, the factories in China should stop putting fake logos on things and just covering them over. That's wrong. I think the lesson to be learned from that is that we all can't just say we want to get parts at good price that are good quality with a good return policy, but we need to add a bullet point to that list, which is, by the way, if you send us stuff with a fake, with an original logo, that's fine if it came from the original factory, but if you added your own fake logo on top of it, we are not accepting that anymore. No. And I thought that was the story that should be the narrative that could be achieved from it. But B, and this I believe is the much more important point, who the fuck am I to decide what information to publish or not publish based on how I think you may interpret it? It's not my job to publish or not publish or shine a light on information simply because you may think differently of the story. That's not on me. That's not my job. My job as a journalist is to give you the information. You think what you will of the information. Again, it's like when people talk about Fox, like you got the part that actually gets information, and then you have the nighttime TV shows that whatever the fuck they do with the information, that's on them. It's or with many news networks. You have your hard journalism, your hard reporting, and then you have your opinion pieces and that and the other. You can inject your opinion, that's fine, have your opinion pieces, but don't not report relevant news because you think it may change the narrative. And the thing is, there's only so many times you can do that. So let's say that you do that and you actually do get ahead. People don't realize that you skipped over a fact that may have made your side look a little bad in the moment. When they find out that you did that, do you think you're going to have their trust again? Do you think you're going to be able to convince people that are on the other side of the fence that maybe you have a point? Do you think that they're going to listen? Because here's the thing that you may notice with modern politics, is that when you bring up a point, when you bring up something that bothers you or that is relevant to you or that matters to you, rather than the other side saying, okay, let me sit down and listen to what you have to say, what they typically will do is they'll minimize it. They'll say that didn't actually occur. Close. 10 minutes. That didn't actually occur. That's probably not true. I'm going to, instead of actually listening to your point and maybe conceding that there are things that we could change that would make your life better without making our life worse. The immediate response is to do that. And why do you think we're at that point? We're at that point because nobody trusts the individuals that are producing the information. And above all, they think that what's most important is to advocate for your side, not advocate for the other side that you believe to be evil. So one of the other things that we were talking about here is that Apple is a company that lies very often, and that they've lied about things very recently. So, for example, the audio IC stuff. So with the audio IC, their own internal documentation shows that the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus have many, many issues whereby people are having issues with the audio IC because it starts coming off the board. And I've done videos about that in the past. If you look at my video on what pisses me off about bendgate deniers, that's its own story in and of itself. But it's that, okay, yeah, they lied. Our side needs to win because their side lied. However, how can I help you? I thought you were a customer. However, if you refuse to admit when your side may have some cleaning up to do, simply because you want to get a point over on the other, A, you may not even wind up getting that point over on the other once people figure out what you did, and B, above all, the other side is then going up the ante with which they deal with you. So if you decide, hey, we did something that was a little wrong or something happened that could be done better on our side, we're not going to talk about it, what do you think the other side's going to do? They're going to up the ante, up the ante, up the ante, up the temperature. And that doesn't make things good for anybody. And you see this happening even in just like from over the last few days. There's an example of Trump tweeting the stuff that he did about the young congresswomen. You can dislike socialist congresspeople. You can dislike them. You can disdain them. But there's a way that you can disdain them. There's a language that you can use. And then there's a way that you could tweak that language just 3% in that direction whereby everybody hates your guts. And He chose to do that thing where he spoke in a way that really wasn't necessary so that everybody hates his guts. And nobody's willing to say, well, that's a bad thing, because they think that the end result is, if I say that thing that my side did was a little bit wrong, then that means we're going to, they're going to kick him out and we're going to wind up with a socialist president, so I can't do that. Or you just take the stuff about that Antifa firebombing that ICE facility. When they were asked, do you condemn this? And Ilhan Omar had a little bit of a smirk on her face as she was refusing to say anything. Well, they refuse to do that because they think, well, if we condemn it immediately to a rebel media journalist who's not on our side, that means that we lose, and we have to admit and copulate that ICE facilities as they exist right now are totally fine, there's nothing wrong with it, and we just go away. And I think what's happening here is the same thing. If we admit that Jack Telecom putting a fake logo there is wrong, and that this reflects poorly on us as repair people if we bought that part, but more importantly, that it reflects poorly on us that we bought that part, so we can't admit that Apple has a point. People think that what's going to happen there is, if we can't admit that Apple has a point, then that means all of our repair shops should just close, we should just go home, we should stop fixing these products, and we should all go to jail because we have schematics. And that's not what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. You can admit that things could be better on your side, a little bit better, and work to improve it without destroying yourself or self-imploding. Because I said that in this case, I thought Jack Telecom did a shit thing. Am I out of business? Do I have 100 one-star Yelp reviews posted to my business? Have people stopped walking in the door? Do people no longer watch my content? No. The thing is, you have to believe that if you tell the truth, and that the world is filled with people that, for the most part, want to be good, that whatever occurs is going to be a good possible outcome. I told the truth. What happened? Jack Telecom is going to stop putting fake logos on the products they sell and go back to being a company that sells good screens, the company that I was recommending in 2013 and 14, and they're going to pay Henrik Husby's legal fees. I think that's a good thing. Instead of just focusing on the primary issues of the way the law is written and also the way Apple deals with independent repair shops and their customers, we're also focusing on the tertiary issue, which is, hey, there's really no reason for you to print a fake logo on that you then have to cover up with a Sharpie anyway, so can you stop effing doing that? And it also adds to the credibility of our business if we look at a practice in our business that really should not be occurring, there's no good reason for it, and say, stop doing that. Because I can't expect you to respect me, much less trust me, if there's something going on in our business that is fishy or strange, and we all just refuse to look at it because we have an us against them mentality, whereby if we reform the things that we're doing wrong, then that means that the other side wins. That's a bullshit way to look at life, and that's a bullshit way for society to act if we are actually going to move forward. And, I haven't lost my audience. If you go through the comments in those videos, the narrative is not independent repair sucks, independent repair is crap. And if we refuse to admit when certain people on our own side could do things better, we're not moving forward. We're just moving towards hating each other more, distrusting each other more, not listening to each other, and eventually just being at each other's throats. And that doesn't help anybody. I'm not a fan of Apple. I'm not a fan of how they treat their customers. I'm not a fan of how they treat repair shops. I'm not a fan of how they design their products. I'm not a fan of let's just say I'm not exactly a fan of Apple. But even I can say that in this case, A, there were facts we weren't aware of. B, those facts change the case. C, those facts make Apple look, in this individual case, like a little bit less of an asshole. And even I am going to point that out. And the thing is, I am not a journalist. I am not held to journalistic standards of ethics and integrity. I'm a person with a camera who talks on YouTube on a channel named after me that talks about his pee-pee bus and posts cat videos. Why is it that I have higher standards of journalistic integrity and ethics than people who are actually fucking journalists? Why do I have higher standards of journalistic ethics and integrity than people who actually are politicians? It's something to think about. You need to be able to say when your side could have done something better, and you have to also be able to understand that you can say that your side could improve without everything that the other side's agenda has occurring. You can say Trump's tweet could have been phrased better without saying socialism now. You can say, it's kind of wrong that you bomb an ICE facility without saying, I condone every single thing ICE has ever done. I condone every single way everybody's treated there. I do not think there should be better funding, and I do not think that our immigration policy can change at all. And you can say that Jack Telecom shouldn't put a fake logo on something and sell it without admitting that independent repair just shouldn't exist and everybody should just go to an Apple store. I hear it said very often that, journalism and a free press is essential to a functioning democracy, and people constantly parrot this over and over and over again when anybody attacks the media without really looking into how it was so easy for the mainstream media to lose people's trust. You know, rather than saying, well, it's wrong that somebody attacked the media, which is, I can understand that. I don't see people saying, how is it that it was that easy to get people to not believe what they read, even when there's citations and facts? So if somebody had been my best friend for 10 years and somebody simply walks up to him and says, don't trust Lewis, and that person said, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore, that would be strange. That would really, really be strange. There'd have to be either they presented them with some overwhelming evidence, or if they didn't, I had to have been doing something to erode that friend's trust over a long period of time. And again, as I said, when I'm discussing this issue here, we're not talking about politics, we're not talking about religion, we're not talking about public schools, we're not talking about healthcare, we're not talking about immigration, we're not talking about race issues, police, any of that stuff. We're talking about iPhone screens. Even when it comes to something as inconsequential as iPhone screens, you have individuals who are more than happy to put the spotlight on the facts over there that are totally unwilling to put the light on facts over there, where people who are figureheads of this movement that I like, that I consider my best friend like Jessa, who I talk to every day, are even saying, there's no reason to put the light on the facts over there. And the issue that I have with that is that if you don't put the light on the facts over there, people who actually are curious, who want to dig a little bit, they're going to find those facts over there. And they're going to and whoever's willing to present them with those facts over there, they're going to trust. They're not going to trust the mainstream credible person who gets the story right 90% of the time, because they hid the ball that 10% of the time. So then they're going to start listening to the people who got it right that 10% of the time, because they showed them the facts that nobody else is willing to show them. But you know what the problem is with the people who are willing to show those facts? They get the other 90% wrong. But it's too late now, because you lost their trust. So now the people who are willing to who pointed out those facts that everybody else was ignoring, now have trust. They shouldn't have, because they get everything else wrong. But now people are going to listen to them because of what you did. And that's an accountability and responsibility problem when it comes to journalism that I don't see people talking about when they're wondering why it is people don't trust the media. Again, we're not talking about iPhone screens here, not even the major issues of society. And this was really eye-opening for me, because I have not found a single outlet after I released this information, of any of the outlets that covered the story, not a single effing one was willing to discuss the issue that I brought up here, that I was bringing up when I was showing the documentation as to in those videos. And it makes me sad. And the thing is, I can only imagine this playing out over and over and over and over again. And it's an issue that seems to be endemic to how things are covered nowadays. And the point of this video, if I get anything across, is that you can have your narrative. You can only report the facts that are unique to that are convenient to that narrative. You're welcome to do that. You're absolutely welcome to do that. I'm not going to protest you. It's just if people figure out that you've been hiding the ball from them and they don't trust you, that's on you. That's your responsibility. You're accountable for that. You were a part of that problem. And if you are doing that, consider not doing that anymore, because you can keep doing it. Just don't be surprised when large swaths of people start going over to uncredible echo chamber media outlets, where people are only becoming more and more radicalized and more partisan as a result of staying in their little echo chamber rather than actually going out and engaging with the world. Remember that if you're a part of this problem, then you are contributing to that, and I don't think that's a good thing, which is why I thought it was very, very important the moment that I got this information and the case was over that I share it with all of you. What do you all think when watching this video? Do you think that people like Jessa and Paul Daniels are correct when they say there's really no point in shining a light on that, because it'll just it changes the story to repair people are idiots rather than what should be focused on? Or do you think I'm right, which is that the information should be put out there, all of it, and let people sort through it. Let the opinion piece people, let them discuss whatever it is they want to discuss, but let people choose what narrative they wish to subscribe to for their own once you've given them the information, regardless of what the outcome is, and that if you tell the truth and you're on the right side, whatever happens is the best possible thing.